I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this, Melissa, was self-care. So, of course you think like through COVID, people are like trying to figure out, how do I care for myself in this, self-care ideas, self-care help, things like that. And so a lot of people are researching that. So Melissa, could we just kind of jump in, and can you maybe share as a counselor what you would say self-care is?
Yeah. Oh, great question. Oh, it's so loaded.
I know. Feel
Loaded
free.
question. I love that question though. I think, gosh, well, I like to talk about what self-care isn't sometimes first, because I think sometimes, self-care is something that when you hear that word, some people are kind of adverse to it. Like, I'm not supposed to take care of myself. That's selfish.
Yeah.
For me to take care of myself. So I think, self-care is not selfish. It's not just focusing on yourself solely. Nobody else matters. Nobody else, like it's not about you ignoring other people or not caring about other people.
No, I think that's good. I love that you're talking about what it isn't, because I think that makes a lot more sense than what it is, because I do think we kind of have a skewed vision of like what self-care is.
Yes, I do. I think we do too. Yeah, and I think the other thing it isn't is, I think there can be this like idea or mentality that like we do a lot of things that like, I don't know, just make us feel lazy, or like that we don't do anything. If we're
You're like, oh, I'm gonna like sit on the couch and do nothing and eat pizza, and this is my self-care. Like
exactly. Where maybe some of that is actually not taking care of yourself. It might feel good in the moment, but isn't actually self-care. Yeah. So I think really what self-care is us intentionally considering what we need so that we can thrive, both physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I think there's a lot of different components to each of those pieces. I would say that, for our physical health, it's us considering our sleep, right? Are we sleeping well? It's us considering our eating habits, and are those things like nourishing us and taking care of our bodies? It's thinking about exercise. Are we doing things, not necessarily means we have to do like a P90 workout every day, but like, are we doing things that get our heart rate up and that get us to sweat a little bit? One of the amazing things about depression is that, one of the greatest non-medicated ways to treat it is exercise, because there's so many endorphins and adrenaline that plays a role in the brain chemistry of depression. And then, so those three pieces are really huge, and sleep is huge. Like if we're not sleeping well, it affects every area of our life. And so I like to think about the physical parts first. Mm-hmm. And then I think the other piece is just our emotional self-care. Like, are we checking in with our hearts and asking ourselves, like, how are we really doing? Whether that's through journaling or processing out loud with somebody that we're close to. Are we checking in with ourselves and really like seeing like, okay, how am I actually feeling today? Checking in with our bodies so that we can understand our emotions, like I was saying earlier, I think can be really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think there's the spiritual part of us, which I think can also be social as well. Like, are we spending time with people that encourage us, that make us feel loved, that are safe for us? And then, just staying in a regular state of like, how do we feel connected to God? Are we in worship? Are we praying? Are we in our word? Things that are going to nourish us spiritually. And then the last thing I could think of is just our mental health. I didn't mention that earlier, but like what we input, what are we inputting into our brain? Is it like positive, helpful, useful, or is it negative input? Is it bringing us down? Is it making us experience emotional challenges because of what we're putting into our brain? And so I like to evaluate those 4 different pieces of self-care, because I think they all play a role and a factor in like us feeling like we're being taken care of. And if we just do one piece and we neglect all the others, there are going to be parts of us that need care. So.
Yeah, when I think of self-care, it's so funny. I think getting my nails done, or like something like that. But like, is that superficial and like totally not accurate, or could that be self-care?
Absolutely. I think that can definitely be self-care. Absolutely. It sounds like that could be an emotional thing where it makes you feel good, right? Like you're like, I took care of myself. Like, and you're telling yourself that you're valuable, right? When you do something like that. So absolutely. I think
Right.
so.
Telling my husband, I'm like, I need this. This is
Yes.
it for me.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
haven't done it in a long time, but
I understand, me either. Actually, that was one of my self-care things before the pandemic, was going to get my nails done. And I had acrylics on. And of course, like, you can't do your acrylics at home. Maybe some people can, but I'm not that skilled. So they
how
kind
did
of...
you deal with, what did you do?
Oh gosh. Well, I had to get really creative with my self-care, and I ended up letting them grow out. And then I started just taking care of my nails on my own, like manicuring them. But then the other thing I started doing was just like getting out of the house and going for drives, my husband taking my daughter, just like me, like getting space to kind of process what was going on with me. Just getting time to myself was...
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I think especially in this pandemic, it's like when we thought of self-care before, a lot of us thought going to a certain place, a salon, getting a massage, going and doing this, going to the gym even, and things like that, COVID hit, and it was like, I don't know what self-care looks like if I don't do these things. And I feel like a lot of people have had to kind of readjust and shift the way that they view self-care. And I think, the way that you put it was really good. And, even just getting outside, like you said, going for a walk, things like that, that right now, I mean, that is your self-care, instead of going to the gym that might be closed,
Yes. Yeah, taking a long hot shower for me is great self-care. Like, I'm like 20 minutes, nobody's talking to me.
Oh, right. Just like a little eucalyptus oil.
Yes.
Ah.
Yes. And my sleep self-care too, because I could be up on my phone late at night and getting less sleep.
Right.
So yeah, there's even those pieces of sleep for me that I've had to make the decision, okay, I'm turning off my phone at this time because I just need good sleep.
Yeah, I think even when everything with the pandemic was starting, I found myself just in a really anxious spot, and I was, losing sleep over it, just constantly feeling very overwhelmed, almost like I was in a time crunch. Like, I have to get as much done as I can because everything is going to be crazy, a week from now. And no one knew really what was happening. We were all kind of in this uncharted territory. And I noticed that I was so anxious. And so I did start doing that. I started, turning my phone off around 9 or so, and just putting it away, leaving it in the other room, not bringing it into my room, because it was so much for me. And I did see a huge difference mentally and then just in my sleep.
Yes, it's amazing. Little things like that we can do. Sometimes you think about self-care being doing something, but sometimes it is taking away something, taking things away that aren't good for us or that aren't helpful for us.
That's good. That's a good word. Sometimes self-care is taking something away, not doing something. That's very good.
Good. I'm glad. Hopefully that's
taking notes.
Because it really is stress, it builds, it compounds. And if we don't have a system for taking care of ourselves, then it doesn't get dumped out, that cortisol in our body. So we just need that constant little dump, out of our bodies so that we can maintain homeostasis, really. Just function, at a level where we're just not feeling that stress all the time.
Right. Yeah, no, that's awesome.